I'm Shadi Sharif, and this is Cyborg. One of my favorite movies of all time, The Lion King, tells the story of the cub prince Simba, who after the murder of his father runs away from home and finds himself all alone in the desert with no hope in sight, until he meets two locals, a meerkat and a warthog. And realizing survival alone is virtually impossible, against all odds, a lion, a meerkat, and a warthog become the best of friends. So Simba's immigration requires him to adopt the local culture, which even includes becoming a vegetarian. But the sense of belonging he finds and the bonds of friendship he builds save his life. Like Simba, finding a sense of belonging is essential for human survival. Through a sense of belonging, we experience deep connections with people, groups, and even physical spaces. And importantly, this feeling motivates us to build relationships, families, and entire communities. Research has repeatedly shown that belonging is a fundamental human need, and an individual's experience of belonging is linked to their mental and physical wellness. Our brain is literally wired to seek out relationships and connections. But what happens when a person migrates across the world to a place where they have no person, no community, and no space they belong to? To a place where they might have to even become vegetarian. Does adapting the local ways and leaving your culture behind truly ensure survival? Because we can't forget that while Simba adapted the local culture, when he's finally reunited with his childhood best friend Nala, a fellow lion, he is reconnected with his home culture and eventually decides a mix of both Lion Kingdom and Hakuna Matata is where his truest sense of belonging solidifies. So in today's episode, I'm joined by one of my good friends, Salar, and together we're going to discuss the experience of building a sense of belonging as an immigrant and how crucial relationships are to our survival. Welcome to Cyborg, Salar.
Hi, Shadi. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm super excited to be here, and hopefully listeners will enjoy their time and get something out of this. So I kind of had to fight myself into your podcast because I saw a lot of our friends were on it, and I really wanted to be here and kind of talk about my experiences of friendships and also dating and relationships. And I feel like it can help a lot of people to kind of know there are some people out there with the same feelings as them and same thoughts. Maybe, we don't know, we'll see. But hopefully it'll be a good podcast.
Definitely. Well, I'm so excited to have you on, and I completely disagree. You did not have to fight your way on. I am honored to have this conversation and hear about your experiences. So I'd love to start by giving a little background to our listeners on where you're from and where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved to America in 2017. So if you can see, I have an accent. That's why I wasn't born here. So it's been around 7 years, and I moved directly to Golden, Colorado. I've been here since. I really love it, being close to the mountains and going hiking and enjoying the nature. I really love it here. Just a little bit about myself. I'm 23 years old. I'm fresh out of college. I graduated December of 23 with a mechanical engineering degree, and now I'm working in an engineering consulting firm. But going back to before coming here, I was a little 16-year-old that didn't know anything about the world. I was just having fun in my high school. Maybe not too much, I was studying a lot. Mm-hmm. And then my family just decided out of nowhere, without even discussing with me, to just send me somewhere else. Oh, wow. Maybe they wanted to get rid of me. We'll never know. So what we did, and a lot of my friends, maybe you don't even know, that first our plan was that I moved to Australia since I have my aunt over there. And we traveled to Australia for a month of just vacation, and also me getting to know of different countries, see how's the situation over there. But at the end of the day, I didn't move to Australia, even though I really liked it, and it kind of changed my view of the other countries. But I had my uncle here. I have 4 uncles in America, and the uncle that I live with here in Denver offered for me to come here, and then my family decided, oh yeah, that's a better idea than Australia, since we believe that, America is better for education, work purposes. Therefore, we decided to go on this path and come to America. It was a lot of challenges on the way of, getting the visa and everything. I also got rejected the first time when I went to the embassy, and it was almost impossible to come here. At that time, 2017, if you guys remember, the president changed and we had all the travel bans. So it was, honestly, I got super lucky, and the second time I was able to get the visa, and now I'm here, and I'm super happy to be here.
Wow, that is quite the journey here. And a really important aspect about your immigration journey is that you moved here alone without your family as a teen. So, and like you said, it was a decision made for you, not necessarily by you. So I'm curious how you felt about this massive life change you were going to take.
Honestly, now that I think of it, it was such a big move, but at that time I was too young to understand what's going on. I was just watching all these different movies and TV shows of America and just making a really good picture. I'm not saying it's bad, but I was having all my dreams, and yeah, I was very excited to come here, but I didn't know any the challenges. I didn't know that you have to go alone. Your family's You're probably not gonna see your parents for a while. I didn't think of any of that. I didn't think of the language, different culture, any of that. I was just, happy to live in that dream picture that I had in my head.
I think most people around the world have an image of what life in the US is, and it's the dream for so many to come here. But so often, with any dream we have, the reality is different. So I'm curious what the reality of living in the US was like for you.
One of the first things that when I arrived here that was so different was that work is the priority for everyone here. And I'm not talking about people over the age of, 23, 22, 23 when you graduate college. Even the younger people, they either go to school or they have to work, they make their own money. But back home, it's not the same way. You can be 27 years old and your dad still gives you money and you still live at your parents'. That was one of the biggest differences that I saw here, is that people really work every day. Even if I don't work and I don't have anything to do and I want to, go hang out with people and have fun, there are not people out there that have time to do that with me, But it was so different back home, even during the weekdays, people work, but at night they would go out, they hang out. But I feel like over here it's only during weekends that people get together and, enjoy their time. And yeah, that was one of the biggest differences.
Yes, work. That is a perfect encapsulation of American culture. There are positives and negatives of that reality, and I can imagine what a massive shift that is from your home. And I love that you brought up how people spend time with their friends and when, because Salah and I are recording this episode in the middle of the week. And when I came in, one of our other friends, Daniel, was already here. And it was a nice surprise to see him. And also just made me think how uncommon an occurrence like that is. When I think about seeing my friends, you're right, it happens on the weekends. So I'm curious, when you first came here, did you start working or were you in school?
Yeah, when I came here, I went to senior year in high school, so I still had a year left of high school. And honestly, there were a lot of good and bad experiences with that. Just going to high school meant that I can improve my English and, you know, find new friends. And also, it's not like super heavy on me at the beginning, since like the courses and everything were little, you know, easier. But from the other side, I got introduced to this new way of friendships and how things are different here, and that was a big challenge to get used to it.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what's different in friendships here compared to back home?
Sure, yeah. So friendship here, this is definitely my own personal view of it. Doesn't mean that it's definitely true, but the way I see friendship here is that a lot of people, and I don't mean about everyone, but people usually like calculate in their head what they get out of the friendship. And that's what got me at first, is that, oh, I'm gonna become friends with this guy because he knows a lot of parties and he can take me to parties. Or no, I want to become friends with this guy because he has a nice car and he can give me a ride to places and I can show off his car, or like things like that. And it really was difficult to understand and get used to, because of just, you know, you automatically compare that in your head with the friendship that was back home, and how people just become friends with each other with actually like no reason or no excuse. You just become friends with someone because you could click with them, you had a lot of things that you guys share, and you just simply have fun time with your friends, you know. But over here, I feel like one of the biggest things that I actually like found super strange was that I saw two people that are super close friends, but they give you a ride, you have to pay them for gas. That was one of the craziest things for me. Or like, they came to your house with food, but now you have to pay your share. There's a lot of these kind of money-wise or other things that you calculate in your head that back home you really didn't even think about it, you know. You just, everyone fights to pay back home, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was very big at first.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, in Iranian culture, friends will fight with each other over who's going to pay the entire bill. So the concept of splitting the check or asking your friend for gas money is extremely bizarre. And it sounds like your experience with friendship was very transactional. People examining what they get out of it, how it serves them, and literally doing calculations to make sure they're not putting in even $1 more than the other person, rather than genuine care without other expectations. I hadn't really thought about friendships here in that way, but I can 100% understand what you mean. I'm curious if there are any other differences you noticed in how friends interact with one another.
Yes, totally. A lot of things, I mean, I told you about the work and the friendships, but also I feel like people are less open, you know, they tend to not share their feelings. Even if you're like super close friends, I feel like there's this fear in people here that they don't really like to share. And I found that sharing can really sharing your thoughts, even if it's through this media that is podcasts or just even simply talking to your friends, it can really help out with mental health. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that people here tend to have a lot of mental health problems, is that people don't open up and they don't talk even to their parents, to their friends. And that was kind of hard for me, because when my friend doesn't open up to me, then I wouldn't open up to my friend, you know. So you tend to just pile up everything inside your head, and that will cause mental health issues, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of depression comes out of it. That was also one of the deeper, I guess, cultural shocks that I experienced.
Wow, I definitely agree that a big struggle Americans face is just having a lack of real community. And by community, I mean people who surround you from family to friends who you know you can rely on and can seek support from. And it fosters a natural openness, which you're describing was lacking. And unfortunately, a lack of community has huge effects on humans, one of the biggest being our mental health and functioning. So, I'm curious how you were able to find a sense of community and belonging in the US.
This is such a good question. I believe that if you find something you really like, just dig deep inside you and find something that you really like and go out and find people that like the same thing that you like. For me, for example, that was volleyball. I started playing volleyball when I was back home, and that was something that I could feel myself being confident in. And like whenever I play volleyball, I was more confident in myself. And I just went out and found people that like volleyball. And I found a lot of good communities, a lot of good groups of friends that I have right now. I can tell you from my non-Persian friends, at least 80% of them are through volleyball. And that kind of helped me through hard times as well, because you can't have Persian friends everywhere, when you go to college, especially the college that I went to, there are not that many Persians. So that was one thing that I could go and find. And through that, I found a lot of friends that I still have connections with and I hang out with, So for whoever's that is moving to a different place, go find something that you like and you're good at, and find people with that same background that you can share, and that will help you a lot to find friends. If you're in a college, go find a club of what you like, and that is probably the best advice that I can tell people that are going to college, is just joining a club and finding friends through that.
That is such good advice, Salar. One of the biggest challenges I imagine immigrants face is finding a sense of belonging in their new home. And belonging is a fundamental human need, and research shows that immigrants' sense of belonging and community directly impacts their mental health. And a great way to find a sense of belonging is building a social network, and sports is such a good example. There's even research suggesting that college students who engage in sports report a higher sense of belonging and better mental health. And this does not have to be the D1 team, even just a club sport has an impact. So I know you mentioned earlier that you felt a barrier with Americans in terms of their willingness to open up. Did you find that dynamic was different with these friends that you've made?
I'm sure what I've realized is that the friendship and the dynamic of the friendships are different from my, Persian friends. The funny part is that a lot of my non-Persian friends are non-American as well. I have a couple good American friends, but I have, through the 7 years I've been here, I've realized that I have to change the way I act in the friendship with my non-Persian friends, and that is totally normal and okay. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a different way of friendship that I had to learn. I can get in details with it, but I'm sure it's different with different people. It's just a way that you have to kind of adapt yourself with their way of being friends. And maybe that's one of the challenges that people move to a new place have to deal with, is to just learn the new way of friendships with because of the culture differences, because of even the language differences. You have to adapt yourself, and if you don't, you probably wouldn't find that many friends. If you want to act Persian, being a Persian friend with a non-Persian friend, that probably not gonna work out. So yeah.
So do you find yourself opening up more with your Iranian friends?
That's one of the biggest things. And I think a lot of it comes from trusting your friends. You know, you tend to share more with the people that you trust more, right? And the other part is that the thing that I said in the beginning is that if they don't really share with you, why would you share with them, you know? And going back to what I said, I feel like a lot of, at least my friends, don't really share that much with me. Therefore, you know, I don't have any reason to do the same. There are a couple friends that do, and I do share a lot with them, and I really, you know, I trust them a lot. So, but I think it's just that fine line that you have to find of who you trust and who you share information with, and how much would they go out and share your information with other people. Goes back to the trust thing.
Definitely. So while you have both American and Iranian friends, I'm curious if you find yourself drawn more to one or the other.
Honestly, I didn't really mind having non-Persian friends. It could help me to understand the culture, get closer with the people that of the place that I live. You know, I live in America, so I want to, you know, have American friends. You gotta experience the place that you're at. You can't just restrict yourself with the people of your own culture. You should be open to other cultures, other people, you know, other behaviors or other characters. So I was definitely open, but at the end of the day, I have really good non-Persian friends that I love and I enjoy spending time with. But going back to having the similar culture, I think having Persian friends, it's just a different experience, you know. People that speak your own language, that understand you, you're coming from the same background, and this is probably a little deeper, but I feel like all of our us Persians, we have this old pain inside ourselves that comes from back home, and we all share that pain, and that gets us closer to each other. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like we all have similar pain that comes from back home, and you know, the stuff going on, and that gets us closer, and that gets us to be to understand each other more, that other people don't really understand. And I'm sure other cultures have the same things as well.
I love how you phrase that so much, Salar. A deep mutual pain. As Iranians, so many of us have left our homes, and many of us haven't had a chance to go back. And while we can explain this experience to others, no one can fully understand this extremely painful reality unless they've gone through it themselves. And like you said, it builds an instant bond between us and an instant connection. And I also have found myself having stronger connections with my Iranian friends for this very reason. Actually, my closest group of girlfriends, which is how Salar and I met, we came together because of our love for Iran and the pain that we felt. So I truly could not agree more, and I'm in awe of how perfectly you described that. So if you were to reflect on your life since living in the US, what are some things that you've learned?
One thing that I learned here is that you have to, and this is what my uncle told me, and I learned it through the just spending time here, is that you have to have fun with yourself. If you want to be happy, don't expect anyone to make you happy. You have to do it for yourself. You know, you can't just expect people to always hang out with you and take you out or do what you want them to do. Sometimes you're by yourself and it is what it is, and you have to understand and learn how to have fun by yourself. And I feel like a lot of when you move to a new place, you tend to, especially in the beginning, that was a big challenge for me. It's just I didn't have that many friends. I didn't know, because the only way that I knew how to have fun is with other people. But right now it's only me, and if I want to stay happy, I just have to learn to have fun with myself. Go to a restaurant by myself, just go hiking by myself. And that's definitely one of the things. If the listeners want to move to a new place, that's something they have to learn. Just before you move, one of the things that I want you to learn is just learn how to have fun with yourself.
That is such good advice and a massive lesson to learn. And I can only imagine what a difficult adjustment that was, especially because the US culture is so individual and independent focused. So I'm curious if you could talk to your younger self and give him a piece of advice before immigrating. What would you tell him?
I'll say this quote that I read some couple of weeks ago from Shakespeare, that I really loved, and I wish I knew this before, and I think it can be super helpful for the people that listen. Shakespeare was asked, "Why are you always happy?" And he responded, "You know why? Because I don't expect anything from anyone. Expectation always hurt." I think this is a golden sentence. Life is short, so love your life, be happy, and keep smiling. Just live for yourself, and before you speak, listen. Before you write, think. Before you spend, earn. Before you pray, forgive. Before you hurt, feel. Before you hate, love. Before you quit, try. And before you die, live. So let it just be the last sentence. Before you die, live. And don't expect anything from anyone if you want to be happy.
Intro music was written by Optin Akrami. And if you're interested in the research I referenced, you can find a complete list on our website at cyborg.info.